welcome to today's video. So first off, I cover my desk with this vinyl countertop adhesive thing. I hope it comes out okay. It said online that it was gray, but it's more of a silver metallic glittery looking thing, so I'm hoping it doesn't mess up too much with the image of the video. So today I'm going to be working on what I said I would do at the end of my portfolio video, where I was looking back through my college and some of my high school artwork in my old portfolio, and I am going to recreate this painting right here. I'm pretty happy with how this came out at its time, but I want to see how I can improve upon it if I do it now. I'm going to take a moment to set everything up and I will be right back. Alright, here we go. So I'm starting with the background. I am approaching the background a little bit differently because it doesn't work on the original, and I wanted to improve on the painting. I didn't want just to recreate it the way it was before with better techniques. I wanted to approach it as if it was a brand new painting I was doing from scratch without referencing the original one. So the background's different, the colors are going to be more vibrant. I'm going to do some actual shading and shadowing, which are almost non-existent in the original, and any that is there is simply by mistake, I'm guessing, because it just doesn't really make that much sense. I'm going through and thinking of how the light affects some of the textures and some of the materials of the skin and the flower, and I'm also making sure that as I'm going through, it's a nice clean painting. I don't have crazy brushstrokes everywhere like the original, which can be a great style, but it's not what I was going for. I added some red under the neck of the frog, thinking the light's reflecting some of the redness of the flower and the toes into the somewhat wet neck. I'm also using purples, blues, greens, some reds for the shading instead of using just purely grays, which is how I used to shade back then because that's all I knew. Now for the green, I'm making sure that I'm going through it and adding it evenly, that is correctly covering the canvas. The original, a lot of the areas that are white or light are just canvas being exposed because the paint wasn't applied in a way that covered the canvas correctly. I'm also made some adjustments to the anatomy. For example, the original has no nostrils. The right arm is kind of floating there, doesn't look like it's attached to the body. Some of the color placements are also wrong. I look at some reference pictures of the original animal, and let's just say that there's some reds and orange where they're not supposed to be. There's some blues missing, but I went ahead and I added that correctly to the new painting. I am going through and adding some highlights and little dots and textures of the skin. Again, this is an animal that lives in a rainforest. It needs its skin to be wet to survive, so I'm making sure that's correctly illustrated, while the first painting just kind of has some very dull, almost dry looking colors. So I wanted to make sure that the colors in the new one are really bright and really stand out and look great. I take a break about now, let it dry a little bit, and take care of my ducks, and I came right back and I kept painting. So here I'm back and I start just adding some more details. Now I wanted to address the toes a little bit differently. The original, I did the toes and the flower the same color, and then I said, crap, the toes just kind of blend in. It looks like he doesn't have any toes. So the way I'm addressing that with the new one is I'm making sure that the toes are more of an orange tone, while the flower has some pink undertones to it, so it makes it stand out. And I'm also adding some shading, which the first one didn't really have. The first one, I remember going through and saying, okay, I need to add some red and black around the toes to make them stand out, and that's all I did. Adding some highlights, which I used some yellow and orange and a little bit of white to go through and add some highlights to the toes, to the eyes, so there's a nice gradient in the eyes from the dark red of the outside of the eye to the center of the eye. Is going to have more of a yellow tone hint to it. Again, just focusing more on details, just worrying about making sure that the new one looks very clean and sharp and nice. Not saying that the old one, the style, you could say, or lack of knowledge back then. Some artists, I've done it too, use very broad strokes and kind of random strokes to create shapes and forms, and that's great. I do feel like something like this looks better if it's sharper and cleaner because it is such a small animal, and we're kind of looking at a close-up of a flower and an animal in a rainforest, and that style of the older one just doesn't seem to add up to what we're looking at. Again, big difference between the two. It is the same subject, different approach, and I'm pretty happy with it. Alright, so I am done after 2 hours or so. I am finished with the new version of this painting that I did 15 years ago. Some of the most obvious differences are the background. I went for something a little bit more realistic, kind of like a really out of focus, maybe trees or plants in the background, versus this background is just more of a just whatever paint I had I kind of stippled after I got finished with the rest. The colors are a lot brighter. The shading is based more on different color tones versus just straight up grays and blacks. Well, there's no real blacks on this one, but back then most of my shading was just sort of using grays and blacks. So I've learned a lot of the color theory since then, so I was able to use more colors in the process of creating the shadowing on this one. The saturation, the fact that the anatomy is more correct on this one, because like for example this arm right here is just floating and the colors are incorrect. This back leg right here and this arm right here are also incorrect. There's just a toe right here that I painted over when I did the background. So there were a couple of mistakes on this one. Most of the white areas are just the exposed canvas that I never painted on in those areas. So I wanted to go back and just see the difference, see what would happen if I took the approach of what I've learned through the years on something I did a while back. And I think the difference is quite obvious now. This one looks like it's in the shadow. This one looks like it's in a brighter, more vibrant world, and I like that a lot better. Of course, it could be people that like this one better, but he can't breathe. There's no nostrils. I added that. So there were just a lot of little touches and approaches that over the years I've learned that I was able to apply to this one that I was not aware of when I did this one. So I wanted to show some growth, and I think it did. And I'm pretty excited how this one came out. I think I did a good job, especially considering I probably took about a third of the time that it took me to do this one. I remember doing this one over the span of 2 nights, and this one I did about 2 hours. So I think that by itself speaks about how an artist can grow and develop their skills over time. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I do think I might do this again where I grab an older art piece and recreate it how I will approach it nowadays. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Subscribe, all that mess, you know. So yeah, have a good day. Bye. Thanks for watching my video. Make sure to like it, leave a comment below, and for more art related videos, go to my channel and subscribe.